The most pristine water source in the United States can be found at an undisclosed location in the Appalachian mountain range. In addition to the best water, the region also boasts the purest soil and the cleanest air in North America. In fact, it possesses the notable distinction of being the only significant geographic area completely free of microplastics, PFAS, and other anthropological contaminants that currently pose significant environmental concern. This distinction is all the more astonishing, given that it was acquired practically overnight. Prior to this sudden reversal, the area suffered some of the worst environmental pollution and contamination in the United States due to factors such coal mining, logging, natural gas extraction, and industrial-scale farming of livestock. Understandably, the area has been the subject of intense study for several years. The scrutiny turned up another, less savory fact. By population, this region has one of the highest missing persons rates on the North American continent. The region is plagued by a steady stream of disappearances. Those who go missing are typically, although not always, young adults between the ages of 16 and 22, although some were as old as 38 and others as young as 9. The age range partially explains why these missing persons were never investigated fully, because authorities assumed these young people simply left to pursue better opportunities elsewhere. The lack of attention even extended to the younger victims. Typically, the younger children were simply dismissed as runaways. In 2018, an environmental scientist accidentally encountered the region's astonishing test results and decided to pursue study. The goal of her research was discovery of the factor that had purified the area's natural resources, and replication of this factor for broader application. To say she encountered immediate roadblocks is an understatement. The population was and remains hostile to newcomers. The researcher experienced sabotage, including vehicular damage, equipment sabotage, and personal injury. Rather than abandon her research, she became more determined and decided to bypass the adults and directly question students at the regional school. The children she interviewed spoke of a local folk hero called the Swan King, who delivered bountiful harvests, healthy livestock, and sometimes even left chests of gold and toys for people who pleased him. If a child was particularly good and worthy, the Swan King would introduce himself in dramatic fashion. If the child did not flee from him, he would whisk the child away to his homeland, a beautiful kingdom called Aristira. The researcher learned that this folk hero and tales of his generosity towards local families predated European settlement of the area. The farther one went back, the darker the tales became. Her studies soon revealed that the Swan King was much more than a folk tale. In simplest terms, she learned that the local population not only worshipped this entity, but engaged in human sacrifice to appease it. The ringleader of this cult was an older woman named Darkis. The researcher correctly deduced the time, dates, and location of the next sacrifice. She managed to capture cell phone footage of the ritual. Unfortunately, she was caught, but not before she hid her cell phone. Following an anonymous tip 2 days later, her remains were discovered by authorities. There wasn't much to find, as her hair, eyes, tongue, and vital organs had been removed. The body itself had been subjected to thorough exsanguination. The cell phone was recovered along with the footage. Local authorities swiftly marked it for destruction. However, the officer tasked with its destruction suffered a fit of conscience and instead brought the phone home with him. This caused a sequence of events that ended with T-Class Agent Love successfully recovering the phone and bringing it to the agency of Helping Hands. The footage is highly disturbing, so a full description will not be provided. In brief, however, it depicts the savage homicide of a known missing person at the hands of a tall, clearly inhuman entity with enormous white wings. The being ends the ritual by cutting the victim's throat and draining it into a river while dozens of people look on, chanting at regular intervals. The agency successfully located the entity. It is accurate to say he did not go down without a fight. Upon his eventual incarceration, the inmate introduced himself as both Prince Thalor of Aristira and the Swan King. He completed this introduction by insisting that personnel call him simply Lore. From what personnel can determine, Aristira is analogous to what is popularly termed fairyland, fairy, elfland, and so forth. Lore possesses many spectacular abilities, the most marvelous of which is his ability to purify natural resources such as rivers, soil, groundwater, and air by removing all particulate matter. But purification is not instantaneous, nor is it done freely. The process requires blood sacrifice, the frequency, number, and brutality of which is directly proportionate to the size of the area being cleansed. It should be noted that even the small geographic area Lore routinely purified prior to his capture required several victims per decade. Agency officials have considered leasing Lore's services to world governments to mitigate issues such as ocean pollution and dangerous air quality. However, given the catastrophic exchange of human life that a large-scale environmental cleansing would require, these plans are currently on hold for the foreseeable future. Lore presents as an adult human male of approximately 6.0, with black eyes, large white wings, extraordinarily pale skin, and hair a particularly vibrant shade of coppery orange. He is objectively attractive to the point of distraction, an effect he seems to exert upon all personnel regardless of individual preference or orientation. In the recent past, Lore has used his exceptional appeal and charm to manipulate staff to disastrous effect. Personnel are therefore advised to be on their guard at all times when working with Lore, and to never be alone with him. Interview subject: the Swan King classification, string, uncooperative, destructible, Olympic, constant, moderate, Damon. Interviewer: Rachel B. Interview date: 11/30/24. My existence is a covenant. This covenant takes the form of a game. The game begins with hiding. You do not choose your hiding place. Your brothers choose it for you. The choice is not based on strength or merit, but on hierarchy. I was lowest in our hierarchy, so I was given the worst hiding place. That was simply the order of things. They hid me under a rotting roller coaster in a theme park that had already been dead far longer than it had ever been alive. But the park was not the point. The place was the point. That place is a gateway. You might say it's magic. You have no hope of passing through the gate without one of us leading the way, but you still understand what the place is in your core. That is why you built the park there, why you brought your own magic to it, to correct this discrepancy between what your eyes saw and your heart knew. The rust from the roller coaster made me deathly ill. That is why my brothers hid me there. They chose that place to trap me, to make it impossible for me to find enough game pieces, or any game piece at all, in time to train it for our game. Please understand that nothing in that park could actually kill me, but everything in it could hurt me, and did. As a result, I was very weak. So weak, I had no hope of leaving it until the game began. As I told you, this diminished my chances of finding game pieces in time to train them. This was simply the way of things. I was similarly hobbled by my brothers in every game. It was our established order. But chaos is anathema to order, and chaos intervened on my behalf. That chaos came in the form of a girl named Darkus. Love is not always chaos, but nothing engenders chaos like love. That night was chaos incarnate. Rain like shimmering starry curtains, thunder that shook earth and air alike, lightning that split the sky and erased the dark, winds that howled like a grief-mad god. Had my brothers not hidden me in the utility room under the roller coaster, I might have drowned. Darkus only found me because she sought shelter from the rain. I learned later that she was only in the rain because she was running from someone. Even the circumstances seem chaotic now. A young girl running from beasts, only to find refuge in the arms of a monster. Who expects such a thing outside of a fairy tale? She was afraid of me at first. They all are. Most of them flee. This is desirable. You want the cowards to flee as soon as possible, because it proves that they are not suitable game pieces. Darkus stayed. I can still see her as I first saw her. Rainwater dripping down her face, cutting channels through her makeup alongside her tears and sweat. Her coat drenched, smelling of cigarettes and mildew and despair. The stench still burns my eyes, but to remember her this way makes me smile. I did not smile at her then. I begged her for help. That is the next move in the game. To beg. To transform your power into powerlessness. I looked powerless indeed. I couldn't even move on my own because I was bound, wrapped in warded cloth and tied with steel cords. I made my voice pathetic and frightened. She hurried to me, nearly tripping in her oversized shoes, and wrestled me out of my restraints. She unwound my wrappings and saw the wards inked on them. "What is this? Is that blood?" "Please," I begged. "Please help me with my face, just so I can breathe." She pulled the cloth away from my face. When she saw what lay underneath, she almost ran. After the initial shock, and it was a shock because we make sure we anything but beautiful at the beginning of the game, she asked, "What are you?" "What, not who." "You won't believe me." "Try me." I told her lies. Lies are crucial to the game. Lies to charm, to trick, to draw in. I lied about who I was, what I had done, and what I planned to do. I lied about what was being done to me. I lied that I was hiding from my brothers who sought to kill me. And I lied that I was hopeless and helpless and lost. "I need your help." I made my voice break. "I can't do this by myself." I did not enjoy the concern in her eyes. In truth, I did not enjoy this game at all. But enjoyment is not the aim. The aim is only power. Every intelligent creature plays games. You play your games with pieces. My brothers and I are rather more intelligent than the rest of you, so we played our games with people. We were not cruel, or at least we weren't cruel for cruelty's sake. We paid for the game pieces, or rather, the loser paid. I always lost, so I always paid. I paid for all of the game pieces, mine and my brothers, with harvests, livestock, even gold. Later on, I paid gemstones and money. The better the game, the better the prize. These prizes were meaningless to me, true. They were nothing, less than nothing. But these things meant something to you, so I gave them. Prosperity in exchange for blood. This way, everyone wins our games. Well, everyone except the players. But that is the way of it. An exchange, gain for sacrifice, death for life. I did not tell Darkus any of what I am telling you because truth is not part of the game. Even so, she sensed my lies. This made my work very difficult. Overcoming your game piece's natural reactions is part of the game. Breaking down their fear, peeling away their own survival instincts until they ignore everything their senses scream at them for love of you. Bonding with them. Building trust. They must trust you. Trust is the only way they will follow you into Aristira. No matter what I did, Darkus would not trust me. But even though she did not trust me, she could not stay away from me. This was no significant feat, however. None of you can stay away from magic. To be fair, neither can I. We simply have different definitions of what constitutes magic. Although she did not trust me, she took care of me. I admit her ministrations were welcome. As I told you, the rust overhead and the iron all around had made me very ill indeed. I did not trust that she would help me for them. Even now, I am not entirely sure that she wanted to. Every time she left me, I saw the hesitation in her face, and I believed that she would not come back. Instead of moving on, instead of giving her up for lost and waiting for a new game piece to come along, I always felt a lance of fear, bright and hateful. I hated her for being afraid. I hated her for knowing she didn't want to come back to me. That hate always died when she returned. She always returned with fresh clothing, bedding, and blackberries. Blackberries grew wild throughout the park. I was too weak to gather them myself. She gathered them for me and fed them to me, one by one, until I told her I was strong enough to feed myself. Over the following days, I continued to build her trust. I told her things, both true and untrue, about myself. I told her entirely true things about Aristira. That is important. They must know that Aristira is beautiful beyond compare, or they will never follow you. In return, she told me things too. She told me of herself and her family, the poverty in which they lived, the exploitation and consequences thereof that they could not escape. She told me of the children who lived around us, they who lived in fear of the disappearances and mutilations that had happened so regularly for so long. How every time they left their homes, or even when they were left alone within their homes, they feared death or something worse. How she herself had nightmares of being taken away or killed, murdered for some dark purpose. She told me of the land itself and what had been done to it by those in power. She told me of the poisoned water, how it flowed dark and foul from every faucet in the town. She told me of the contaminated aquifer, that ancient pristine lake defiled from the mines and the runoff of tortured livestock. She told me of the soil itself, tainted with poisons one can't even see, poisons that will live on long after the ground itself has died. She told me of the children who died in infancy because their mothers' wombs were poisoned. of children born sick and grown sicker with the years, of all the people who died too young, or simply young, because everything in them and around them had been poisoned. Over the course of those days, the balance of power shifted. I was no longer earning her trust, she was earning mine. There, under the roller coaster, as rust burned my throat and fireflies drifted through moon-blue grass, I knew that I desperately wanted to help her. Only there was no help for her. There is no help for game pieces, only victory or death. I understood the game. I understood it enough to already know Darkus would not have victory. While I couldn't help her, I decided I would at least help her family, her town, her land. This time the price paid for the game pieces would be purification. No harvests. Why, when any crop would be contaminated? No livestock. Why, when they were cruelly bred to such vast numbers that they destroyed the very land that sustained them? No money, no gemstones either, only purification. Purification of the land would be the price the loser paid for the game pieces. And I was always the loser. But even this resolve failed me, for as the nights passed and the game drew near, I realized that I was falling in love with her. The essence of the covenant is sacrifice, death of few into the bounty of many. This transformation is the foundation of rebirth, but before rebirth comes destruction. The covenant demanded the destruction of the game pieces, but you cannot destroy what you love, or at least I couldn't. No sooner had this revelation dawned than she sensed it and asked, "What's really going on, Lore? What do you actually want from me? What are you really?" I told her, "If I tell you, you will hate me." She only said, "Try me." I tried her. First, I told her how everything I said of Aristira was true, that it is a place of unparalleled wonder, of shining cloud cities and talking forests, unimaginable creatures and unimaginable beauty, how I was a prince, one of 9. The least of those 9, true, but a prince nonetheless. I have seen wonder in 10,000 faces. Her wonder, her face, is the only one that ever made my heart quicken. But her wonder gave way to fear as I told her other, more important truths. Truths about what I had done and what I was and what I could be and what I was meant to be. Truths about what I did to people like her, how her eyes widened, pale in the dark. Then what are you even doing down here? Because my brothers trapped me here. While no guarantee the prince with the most pieces typically wins, they put me here to make it harder for me to find any. Why? Because of our hierarchy. I am the least among them, not the least talented, nor the weakest, simply the least regarded, least loved. Why? Because of how I treat human beings. I could hear her heartbeat, quick and frightened, and so at odds with the curiosity in her face. "Is it because you were too cruel to us?" "No, because I was too kind." "I don't understand," she said. "I don't want you to." Even though I did not want her to be afraid of me, I cannot help what I am, and therefore not help but enjoy the fear itself. I felt my own smile as it split across my teeth. I saw it reflected in her eyes, feral and bright as a crescent moon. "I have to understand." I felt my smile die, and I told her what I told you. "Then listen. My existence is a covenant. That covenant takes the form of a game. Every intelligent creature plays games. You people, you play your games with pieces. My brothers and I are rather more intelligent than the rest of you, and so we play our games with people." I told her about the games we play. I told her that my brothers and I are greater, older, and more powerful than she could imagine. Ancient, ageless, sliding back and forth through Aristira with nothing to distract us through our long years. Nothing but power that we hone and grow through our games and through people like her. My brothers use theirs like a weapon. Power for the sake of it. Power because it is, simply, power. Unlike my brothers, I understood that power comes with responsibility. This is a natural consequence of losing. I told her that my brothers do not pay for their pieces. I do because I never win. So I'm just your game piece. The disgust in her voice made my chest ache. "You don't need my help at all. I'm not special. I'm not the only one who can help you. You're not falling in love with me. You're just fucking with me so you can win the medal for most infatuated teenager after I skip happily along to your ritual human sacrifice." I would have believed everything was lost had she not been inching toward me with every word. I answered, "Yes, it was supposed to be that way. You were supposed to be a game piece," but was on my tongue. But that has changed. Before I could say it, she said, "That seems like a waste." How so? You're the weakest prince, right? The others make sure you never win. They make sure you never win because they hate you. They hate you because they think you're weak, and they think you're weak because you have enough of a heart, or whatever it is you actually have. I don't know how your anatomy works, to pay restitution for your periodic mass murder ritual. I waited. So if you're gonna lose anyway, and if you're gonna pay out for losing, why keep playing their game? Why don't you just make your own? What a wicked child you are. But I was smiling. Chaos, as I told you. We took matters into our own hands. That is not how it is done. This violates order, and violation of order is a violation of our covenant. But this was a new covenant, and this was a very new game. Darkest brought the others to me one by one, children trapped by circumstances, youth with no escape. People who found their well-being and their very lives sacrificed on the altar of profit at any cost. Victims of power. They were all afraid me. They all wanted to run, but Darkest kept them calm. They were fascinated by me and relieved and horrified in equal measure to learn the truth of the games. A few were darkly enchanted, others repulsed. All wanted to see Aristyra for themselves, and each and every one was willing to enter into a new covenant. So together, we all played our new game. We entered Aristyra and marched directly into the Court of Miracles itself. My brothers were unhappy to see me there. They were even unhappier to see the number of game pieces I brought with me. For the first time, I brought more pieces than all the rest of them, and the prince with the most players always wins. They were unhappiest of all to see Darkest. Even if I had not had more game pieces than all the rest, I believe I would have won because my brothers' pieces fought only for themselves. My pieces fought for us all. When we won, they uncrowned my brothers, leaving me to stand above them all. But I did not stand alone. My victors and I all stood together. That is how you exchange powerlessness for power. I killed my oldest brother to seal the gate to Aristyra, that the survivors there could not come through and punish me or break my new covenant. The seal still holds. I then killed my cruelest brother and used his body to seal our new covenant. Once sealed, I purified the river. I still remember the joy around me when the water ran clear for the first time in decades. Fierce, consuming, overpowering, and I still remember the smile on Reyna's face. Her smile was chaos incarnate. Now that was not the end. It was simply the beginning. Covenants require renewal. My brother's blood held for many years, but it was never going to hold forever. Nothing holds forever, aside from chaos. Every 7 years, the covenant must be renewed. Purification for blood, life for death. When I entered into this new covenant, I lost no power. I gained more than I or any of my brothers ever had. Of course I use it. What you do with power is what separates men from animals and gods from monsters. What I have done with mine makes me no monster. When your monstrous mills defiled the rivers, I cleansed the waters. When your industrial farms infected the ancient aquifers, I purged those vast hidden lakes. When your poisons and your particles and your chemicals infiltrated the ground, when they were taken up through the very roots of trees and flowers and crops, I purified the earth and everything growing from it. I helped you, I help you. It costs you, I know, but exchange is the nature of a covenant. Exchange is the nature of power itself. I see your distaste, I feel it. Yet this is your own doing. Your world is dying. You have inflicted mortal injury upon mortal injury upon mortal injury. I cannot change that, but I can, and I do, take death and turn it into life. That is why the place you stole me from has the cleanest water on your continent, why its soil remains pure, why pristine air remains such, because together, my victors and I make it so. I have been asked if it is possible to transform this small act of purification into a greater one. The answer is yes. Sacrifice is, shall we say, scalable. The part of me that is a prince of Aristyra longs to exact that price from you. But the part of me that is the Swan King shudders at the idea. The scale of purification you seek would require a sacrifice beyond your comprehension. You think this isn't so, but trust me, you do not understand what it will cost. I will do it if you ask, because while I am a king, I am still a prince. Ask, and it will be done. But think very hard before you ask me. Think very, very hard. So as if being scolded by an impossibly beautiful fairy prince for climate change wasn't bad enough, directly after the interview, I was summoned to the Pantheon's one and only conference room for a training session with two other T-class agents. Charlie was there to wrangle the trainer. 3 guesses as to who that trainer was. The familiar bolt of terror, Christoph's presence never failed to elicit shot through me, but as usual, I ignored it and took a seat. Christoph looked at me for an uncomfortable moment, but for once he didn't pop off with something gross. "You were with the elf prince." I unsuccessfully bit back a particularly stupid-feeling smile. He grabbed Charlie's ice water and slid it across the table to me. "Hey!" Charlie snapped. "She needs it more than you." When he opened his mouth, and I saw that he had once again pulled all his teeth, I tamped down my disquiet and settled in. The subject of the training was the Harlequin, and designed for people who haven't yet encountered him in the field. Christoph has been on hand for every recapture, hence his trainer designation. "There is not a lot I can tell you," he told us. "This is because the Harlequin is chaos. Chaos is not predictable, but even chaos has patterns from time to time. The Harlequin has one pattern that is very important for you to recognize." He went around the table, setting a packet down in front of each of us like we were kids in school. "When the Harlequin meets you, there is a chance that he will begin to quote a song at you. Look at your papers for examples." I scanned my packet, which consisted of several photocopied police reports. The first one dated back to 1944. According to the report, a tall red-headed man in stage makeup and a fur coat was arrested for public indecency. He was immensely uncooperative during booking. Rather than try to explain, here's the direct transcription of the report. "Sir, hold still. All right, stop what you're doing because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. I look funny. The costume and makeup might be why, but oh, I'm making money, see? Well then maybe a nice fat fine will teach you a... So, oh world, I hope you're ready for me. Now gather round, I'm the new fool in town and my sounds lay down by the underground. I'll drink up all the Hennessy you got on your shelf, so just let me introduce myself. That's exactly what we've been trying to get you to. My name is Humpty, pronounced with an umpt. Mr. Umpty, are you... Oh ladies, oh, how I like to fuck thee. Sir. So anyway, the report continues on like this, with an increasingly apoplectic cop trying to control an increasingly shrieky Harlequin who abruptly cuts off at the end of the first chorus. The interview transcript ends, and a dense incident report follows that I was too tired, stressed, and anxious to parse. "So you're telling me," I said to Christoph, "that this thing was quoting the Humpty Dance at small-town cops during World War II. It is one of his favorite songs. If it was 1944, how did he know? I don't know. He has quoted songs at me 15 years before they were released. Time does not carry the same restrictions for him as for us." "Okay, well, I know he's your scariest monster, but that's kind of hilarious. No, actually, that is hilarious. It is hilarious. It was also hilarious after he finished and folded the cop into a human balloon animal." I processed this for a moment, then said, "Well, that's still kind of funny. And will it be funny if it happens to you? I guess not for me, but the rest of you. No one will laugh if the Harlequin turns you into a human balloon animal, not even me. I'm touched." "That's good to start. Now let me know how you like to finish." "Christoph," Charlie said sharply. The T-class agent on my left looked as revolted as I felt, which gave me a surge of courage. "Okay, so once the Harlequin starts screaming song lyrics at you, is it a guarantee that you're getting balloon animaled? Or no? It becomes a problem if he finishes the first verse and the chorus. Even then, it is only a half chance he will balloon animal you. The other half is he will decide he likes you. You don't want that to happen either, but speaking from experience, it is the better of the two." "So the Harlequin likes you? Ask him when you talk," was the arch response. "He will tell you everything. He does not shut up. Is there a way to stop him once he starts singing? Not that we know." "So?" The speaker was the T-class agent on my left, a young man I knew by sight but not name. "The last thing we'll get before we die is a theater geek from hell shrieking Digital Underground before folding us in half. Not in half, in knots. My mistake. Yes, it may happen. I cannot promise it won't. I can promise I will be with you, and I will get between you and him. I do not think he will not tie me in knots. I don't know what else he will do to me or to you, but it will not be that. You are truly a comfort, I said. I can be much more than that. Once again, the T-class agent made a face that accurately reflected my feelings. I felt another surge of camaraderie. Christophe, Charlie said, this behavior is not in compliance with your treatment plan. With that, we continued with our Surviving the Harlequin seminar. By the time it ended, I felt worse than ever. Before I could sink fully into the doldrums, however, the other T-class agent pulled me aside. Is Charlie gone? Good, okay. First, Mikey Wingerade. He held out his hand. Yes, that Wingeride. I know you don't know me, but I need to talk to you right now. When did you meet him? Charlie? No, nobody cares about Charlie. Christophe? I don't know. 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks, okay, that makes sense. Now look, you're gonna hate this. I would hate this if I were you. I hate this for you, but trust me, the way to make him stop that shit is to be really nice. As nice as you can. Treat him like he's family. The only family you've got. Dread, confusion, and more than a little anger came rolling on in. Do you know what he is? Better than you do. And I'm not saying he's a good guy. I know what he did. I know what he does. But I also know what they've done to him here, and you have no idea. The best thing you could possibly do for yourself is try to undo some of it. And the only way is to make friends with the sadistic serial killer who likes to sexually harass me. Listen, just pay attention. We're all here. You're gonna talk to each of us, right? Watch us in between. Listen to us. Listen to him. I know what he did, he repeated. I know what he does, but I promise he is the only one who gives a genuine shit about any of the inmates, including you. Even you, especially me. Don't let the name fool you. Don't let him fool you either. And with that, T-class agent Mikey Wingerade hurried away. Naturally, this conversation caused me to have many questions, concerns, and realizations, the most important of which is the growing suspicion that the Harlequin colluding mole, Raphael Wingerade, is looking for just might be his relative. The least important is that I have met 4 Wingerades. 3 of them, Raphael, Gabriella, and Mikey, appear to be named after archangels. And then you've got poor Charlie. Just Charlie. I guess it's true that nobody cares about him,